rest. We won't rest. Thank you, everybody.
I'm trying to figure out what leverage we actually have. What leverage do we have? They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It's their government. What leverage do we have?
As Donald Trump's billionaire-first administration continues gutting necessary government programs and agencies, this is the response from Democratic leadership. Words cannot describe how insulting and infuriating it is to see the so-called opposition party throw their hands up and refuse to match the Republican Party's energy. It's the same weak, apologetic, corporate-friendly messaging that has let the GOP run wild for years. And the worst part, they don't seem to care. What's even more infuriating is this damning report from Axios explaining exactly how Democratic Party leadership is reacting to voters' justifiable frustration with their apathy. Instead of listening to the base, instead of taking bold action, instead of fighting for the people they claim to represent, they're retreating. They're telling their members to stay positive and keep pretending everything is fine while the country is being looted in broad daylight. And somehow they still wonder why so many people have lost faith in them. But let's be clear, there is real leadership in Washington. It's just not coming from the Democratic Party establishment. Congressional progressives, as usual, they're holding it down. They're sticking to their messaging strategy, making it clear that the chaos, the dysfunction we're seeing right now is not random. It's all tied directly to the billionaires and corporations that own our government. And leading that charge, someone who isn't even officially part of the party.
Do you think for 1 second that the oligarchs give a damn about working people? Trust me, they don't. I do not often find myself in the habit of thanking Elon Musk, but I must confess that he has done an exceptional job of demonstrating a point that a few of us have been making for years, and that is the reality that we live in an oligarchic society in which billionaires dominate not only our politics and the information we consume from media, but our government and economic lives as well. That has never been clearer than it is today. What do he and other multi-billionaires really want? What is their end game? In my opinion, what Musk and those around him are aggressively striving for is not novel, it is not complicated, and it is not new. It is what ruling classes throughout history have always wanted and have always believed is theirs by right. More power, more control, and more wealth. And they don't want ordinary people, that's you, and democracy getting in their way. They want it all. Elon Musk and his fellow oligarchs believe government and laws are simply an impediment to their interests and what they are entitled to. For
decades, the ruling class has used every trick in the book to manipulate the American public into defending their class interest instead of uniting along class lines. They pit workers against each other with racism, xenophobia, culture wars, anything to keep people distracted from the real enemy. And clearly, it's worked because instead of demanding economic justice and taking power back from the ultra-rich, we're stuck watching people defend billionaires like they are struggling middle-class workers. This has been the game plan for years, and unless we wake up to it, nothing will change.
These modern-day oligarchs are our kings. And it is not just power, it's incredible wealth that they have. Today, Mr. Musk is worth $402 billion. Zuckerberg is worth $252 billion. Bezos is worth $249 billion. With combined wealth of over $900 billion, these three people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Not surprisingly, since Trump was elected, their wealth has soared. Musk has become $138 billion richer. Zuckerberg has become $49 billion richer. And Bezos has become $28 billion richer, all since Election Day. As modern-day kings who believe they have the absolute right to rule, they will sacrifice, without hesitation, the well-being of working people to protect their interests. Further, they will use the enormous media operations they own to deflect attention away from the impact of their policies while they entertain us to to death.
You know, it's bad enough that billionaires and corporations have completely hijacked our political system, but add in the fact that they also own the media platforms we get our information from. That's a level of control that goes beyond anything we've seen in history. These people aren't just making money off our labor and rigging the system in their favor. They're controlling what we see, what we hear, what we believe. And if you think they won't use that power to protect their own interests, well, you're not paying attention.
The oligarchs, with their enormous resources, are waging a war against the working class of this country, and it is a war that they are intent on winning. The worst fear that the ruling class in this country has is that Americans, black, white, Latino, urban and rural, gay and straight, young and old, that all of us will come together to demand a government that represents all of the people in our country, not just the wealthy few. The oligarch's nightmare is that we will not allow ourselves to be divided up by race, religion, sexual orientation, or country of origin, and will together have the courage to take them on. Will this struggle be easy? Absolutely not. And one of the reasons for that is that the ruling class of this country will constantly remind you that they have all the power. They control the government. They own the media. You want to take us on? Good luck, they will say. There is nothing you can do about it. But our job right now, in these very difficult times, is to not forget the great struggles and sacrifices that millions of people have waged over the several centuries to create a more democratic, just, and humane society.
Democratic Party establishment would rather lose elections and plunge this country into fascism than adopt a progressive populist policy platform like what Bernie Sanders is suggesting. Because at the end of the day, their number one priority isn't stopping Trump. It isn't helping working people. And it isn't protecting democracy. Their priority is protecting themselves, their positions, their corporate donors, their cushy lobbying jobs after office. That's what they're fighting for. And that's why if we don't force them to change, nothing ever will.